1. Start intensity. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of MBA Brew with InsideIIM. I am Shantanu Dash, your host. I am the student representative of InsideIIM at XLRI Jamshedpur. I am currently pursuing my business management course in first year at XLRI Jamshedpur. Today we have the XAT convener of XAT 2024, Dr. Rahul Shukla sir, who is coincidentally also one of my teachers in the first term. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, so let's start away with the interview with the cat which has just passed, and people are complaining and kind of lamenting the fact that cat was on a tougher side. It was different from what was expected. So we'd like to know that for the next big exam, which is XAT, what should the students do in the 1 month they have to prepare well and ace the exam?
So you are saying cat is cat was tough this year.
Mhm.
I also heard about this I came across this information, and this was a news yesterday, day before yesterday, post the third slot, I guess. People were posting this information everywhere. So my suggestion would be that don't panic, right? There is no such information from the office which conducts CAT that it was difficult, easy. Until they share some information, you should not get worried, right? Now, when it comes to XAT, honestly speaking, I have little understanding of CAT because I'm associated with XAT, not associated with CAT. And if you are preparing for CAT, there are lots of things which we measure in XAT are also measured in CAT, except for a few sections. And then we have another part which is not evaluated in CAT at all. So I guess you have enough time. You have a month's time. If you have already prepared for CAT, you still have time to prepare for XAT. The section which is different is decision making. If you are working on decision making questions on a daily basis, you will be actually performing really well on 7th of January 2024. So you have time, don't worry.
So speaking of the decision making section that you have, from in my experience, I had actually zero idea about what the section was about, and what kind of questions I'd expect, and even the last year questions were kind of not suggesting what to do about how to go about solving the question, because you see, decision making as a subject is as a whole is very personal, very subjective. So what do you suggest one should do to actually ace the decision making part of that?
Right. So I guess in many forums, lots of students come and discuss decision making, right? They believe that it is the toughest section to crack. They also believe that the answers of the scenarios which are given in that section are very subjective. The key which we release is based on our understanding. They are just the myths around our answer key. If you actually see our old question papers, right, they are available. You can go to our website, right? I guess if you go to zatonline.ac.in, you will find those papers. Go through those papers and sit with somebody who has been in similar situations in the past, right? Like for instance, let me elaborate on what I'm trying to say. If there is a situation about, for instance, a dosa wala, he's struggling to sell dosas, right? Or he wants to move his dosa corner from outside a hospital to inside a hospital, right? Now, if you really go to such a person in actual life and talk to these people, you will understand that the way they think is actually what we want you to think in the question paper, right? Now, issue is when you are thinking about the right alternative while attempting a particular scenario in the decision making section, you think about a problem from your perspective, right? As a student, for you the ideal answer is the correct answer, right? If I want my son to do well, for instance, tomorrow, I want that my son to go to an IIT or to the best of schools in India, right? But if I come from a background where I don't have enough money to send my student to a right school so that he can crack the entrance exams or the entrance exams of schools like IITs or other great engineering colleges or other schools, not only engineering colleges, other colleges, then obviously sending to a person to a school is not an option, right? First this person has to decide on, do I have enough capital, can I invest enough capital? If a person is struggling, then in that case lots of other factors also come into decision making, right? So you cannot just rely on the ideal approach based on the resources available in that context. You have to think, right? So a person who comes from, for instance, a not very rich background, for him or her to decide on something, for that the wealth that person has, the capital that person has, will also have a role to play. If you have enough money with you, obviously money will have little role to play, then there other factors will actually kick in. So based on whatever information is available, you have to actually understand what is applicable in this scenario or that scenario. So use the information given. For that, read the stem of any question which you are coming across in decision making very thoroughly and try to understand what information is important and what kind of information is not so important. If you can do that sifting, you can sift unimportant from important, you can actually arrive at a optimal, suboptimal or perfect solution.
So from what I understand of what you said about the DM section, what you really want people to do is actually think about real life scenarios, think how it would happen in real life, think from different perspectives, and then arrive on a decision which may be ideal, which may not be ideal, but which is something realistic.
Correct. So I would say that sometimes it's very difficult for a person. Like I have never talked to a person who sells dosas, for instance, on a roadside, right? I cannot think like that person. But if the information in a stem is actually giving me a perspective, use that perspective. Use your understanding to make that perspective better. But the guiding force should be the perspective of that scenario, not your understanding, right? So you can use your understanding to get guided, but heavily rely on what is there in the stem, right? One more thing I would like students to focus on, those who are listening to this conversation. When you decide on something, your assumptions have a major role to play, right? I'm sure because you are our BM student, you know that in our classes, when we are discussing cases, we ask you to share your assumptions, right? Same thing you have to understand when you are actually solving cases, especially in the decision making section. You may be using an assumption, right? There is an assumption on the back of your mind. Can you read your assumption and challenge your assumption? Sometimes you make use of your assumption, sometimes you question your assumptions. So based on whatever is given in the scenario, try to understand if your assumption is supporting or it's contesting. At the same time, try to understand which mental model is helping you to arrive at a right answer. If you can understand your mental model, you can check whether your mental model is applicable in this scenario or not. If it is applicable, well and good. If it is not applicable, tweak your mental model, make modifications according to the situation, and then apply. Obviously, you will be able to arrive at an answer we are looking forward to.
So you gave us a methodology on how to approach the DM questions. What would you recommend for the students to practice from?
Okay, so again, just to clarify on what you said. So whatever I have said, again, if you heavily learn what I am saying, it will not help. Because if you can game decision making section, then I guess it's not a right decision making section, right? You will have to think on the spot, given the information, given what you can think about that scenario, you will have to take a call, right? But obviously you get guided with what I am saying. Coming back to your second question, that what resources you need to consult. If you have kept your ears and eyes open, for instance, when you were studying in college, be it an engineering college or a university, or you were doing BCom, BA, whatever you were doing, if you are actually mindful of the decisions taken by others around you, in your college, in your school, in your committees, or how your parents decided on what stream would you choose, how you decided what you chose, right? If you kept your ears and eyes open around those decisions and you knew why you took a particular call, that data is going to help you in solving these scenarios. Because in our decision making section, we try to keep scenarios which are realistic, right? We don't create hypothetical scenarios. Obviously, whatever goes into the paper, it is based on some realistic situation, right? So as far as the information is concerned, if you have kept your ears and eyes open, obviously it will help. At the same time, please do go through our previous year's question papers, right? Because that will give you a direction, that will help you understand, or it will give you some kind of an orientation on what kind of questions we create. But again, a caution, don't exactly follow what has been done in the past. You will have to think on the move, right? In HR we call it pivotal thinking these days. If you can think on the move, you are a perfect person to come to join any B school.
Sir, next I'd like to drill down on the format of XAT, especially first of all, the timings. XAT is a very long exam from my perspective. And secondly, we have two additional sections called essay writing and GK. So, sir, first of all, I'd like to know what is the reasoning behind such a lengthy exam. And second of all, what kind of evaluation do you do and require for the GK part and the essay part?
Okay, so I would say it would be an injustice to call our exam very lengthy, right? It's not a lengthy exam. We want you all to enjoy the exam. We don't want you to rush to answers, all right? I'm good at, for instance, quantitative aptitude. So we'll start with quantitative aptitude. I will try to understand why this particular question has been given. What is the evaluator asking in this question? We are not testing your speed. So you require time, right? So when you are thinking, definitely you are going in the right direction, it will help you. Because in real life, the more you think, the better you are at decision making, right? That is the idea. So we want you to use your thinking skills. That's the objective. At the same time, we also want you to know your strengths before you come to the exam, right? Somebody is very good at verbal, VLR we call it, right? Verbal and logical reasoning. Somebody is very good at quantitative aptitude. The person may be also very good at decision making, right? When you know, you can start with that. Decision making is something which nobody can prepare. You can only get guided. It's not like you can practice and you will become a perfect decision maker. That's not a right thing also. So some sections consume more time over the other depending upon what you're good at. Keeping that also in mind, we have given enough time to our candidates, right? We don't want people to lose in XAT because they are not good at thinking very quickly. You can only think quickly. This is what my personal take is. If you are good at, for instance, practicing something, right? You practice, obviously your speed will go up. Right? So because currently we are not testing speed, we want candidates to have enough time. Now your second question about the general knowledge section and the essay writing section. I have already told this, and in our this year's XAT 2024 overview, we have informed that these two sections of part 3, let me put it like this, they are only used by XLRI Delhi and XLRI Jamshedpur for the final selection process. Okay? So it's not used by any other associate B school. Our associate B schools only use the percentile of part 1, where we have quantitative aptitude, qualitative aptitude, or we call it VLR, and decision making. Okay, so that's what we use for instance our merit list. And the idea is that we want people who are generally aware and who can actually coherently express what they think. Because when you have to write about something, you should be very clear on your thinking process.
Right.
Right? So we try to understand that a student who we want to see in our classes, can that person think clearly and at the same time express herself clearly in essay. That is the objective.
Sir, I'd like to ask a question which is very, student centric.
Mhm.
I, being a student, and you've been a mentor for many years, you would know that many times it's not our capabilities which impact the result of our exams, it is the circumstances.
Correct.
So maybe the exam center is very far away. Maybe, we are not feeling well for the day. Maybe something goes wrong. Maybe the mouse is not working, the screen is not working. So, as a convener of XAT, who is conducting it on a national scale, how are you trying to scale up and resolve these problems?
So there are two types of problems you have shared. One is the problem of, first you are talking about the proximity, right? How far is my center?
Right.
So when you are filling a form, we take your choices, right? Like when we allocate centers, we take your choices where you want to be. Obviously, because this particular exam is conducted at a mass scale all over the country, we cannot allocate centers according to the choices. We try our best, but it's kind of impossible because we are also dependent on an agency which is helping us in conducting an exam, right?
Yeah.
And they have their own limitations. So that is why we ask for choices of centers, right? So if the center is far off, when we ask for choices, we actually take care of this part, that if you are not available, for instance, in this particular, you are not available in Lucknow, which is the nearest place you can go. So maybe if your somebody from your family stays, for instance, in Allahabad, so you will prefer Allahabad.
Right.
And you are told well in advance that you will go to Allahabad, right? So before that itself, like a day before, you can travel to Allahabad. But we try our best to allocate the center you have given as a first choice. This is how we try to fix this problem. Number two, you were talking about problems at the center itself, right? Like if there's a problem with the mouse, the problem with the keyboard, we send our representatives from XLRI to most of the centers.
Right.
Especially those centers which are the partner centers, right? Like we have an agency which is helping us in conducting exam. So they have their own centers, but they also partner with other schools, other offices to use their space. So in partner centers, we make sure that our representatives are there. We do a dry and run check before the exam, a day before actually the exam, to understand if everything is functioning. So we try to send our representatives, they do this check, they share the reports in the evening with us. But if there is a problem while taking the exam, for that also we keep a backup, right? Like for instance, we have a part 2 in our exam which is about checking your keyboard. So if there's a problem, we have backup keyboards in every center,
Right.
and they will be replaced, right? Third thing which you asked is out of our control. For instance, if somebody doesn't have a good day, right? Somebody is not well on that day. Those things are actually not in our control. I always wish and pray to God that those who are preparing really hard, they should not go through these situations, and they all should come to our centers in the exams.
Sir, I think the timing of XAT exam is one of the best timings out there. It is held in a time when we can get enough sleep in the morning, then comfortably travel to the centers wherever they are, and then take the exam.
Correct.
Is it something which you have thought about?
Yes.
Intentionally?
Because our exam falls in January.
Right.
And in January, especially in the north, mornings are actually really cold.
Right.
It's fog, right? It's chilling. And for students who are traveling, for instance, from a distance of 15 kilometers, right, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, it becomes painful for them.
Right.
So we decided that we would move our exam post lunch so that people can have enough time to travel and they don't have to go through this pain of getting up early in the morning during the winters. That was the idea. At the same time, lots of students have a lot of anxiety. If exam is, for instance, at 9 a.m. sharp in the morning, most of the students will not be able to sleep. And I empathize with all the students, right? I believe that if people are putting efforts they should also be evaluated in a just manner. So at least if there is exam post lunch, they can have some sleep, good sleep, right? And definitely if you have a good sleep before an exam, it helps you in the exam.
Yeah.
And I request all your viewers that before the exam, last day is not going to make much of a difference, right? If there is a day left, give that time to your family, right? Spend time with good people, with your parents, forget about the exam, and then go in the morning and crack it. Whatever you can do before like 2 days. Just when a day is left, don't panic, stay calm, and take the exam, because not much can be changed just a day before. If you have practiced enough, just 48 hours before the exam, start thinking of how to handle, think of strategies. Don't push yourself too hard, right? A day before, give time to yourself and to your family.
Right. Sir, for the past few years, we have seen that, only a few days are left for XAT registration after the CAT has ended. So you usually do some kind of extension on the dates. Is it something which we are looking forward to this year also?
So this has become a custom for last many years, right? That we extend the date,
Right.
but again it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we close our exam, like we have a deadline on 30th of November.
Right.
Now, if there is a lot of pressure from candidates, right, they start writing, because on 30th itself they start writing that I'm traveling, I'm stuck somewhere, I'm outside the country, I have to come back. If there are a good number of applications or requests, then we have to extend the deadline, right? Otherwise, we can also keep a deadline of 10th of December. We deliberately want to close it early for a simple reason, because we have to take care of logistics.
Right.
The agency which is working with us, we have to give them a data of how many candidates are going to take. Accordingly, we decide on centers. Accordingly, we decide on number of people in every center. So actually, extending the deadline is a painful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in case there is a problem, we have to, because lots of people write to us. And XLRI, I am sure, because you are here, you know this, that we believe in for the greater good.
Right. Sir.
Right? That's our core value. We extend our deadline if there are lots of requests.
Right. Sir, there's one question which I personally had. So this is very specific to the XLRI process of the, after that is finished. We had online interviews for the past few years.
Correct.
This year, would we be seeing any kind of changes? Would we be having offline interviews or something?
So you're talking about XLRI now, right?
Hmm.
After you get shortlisted for XLRI.
Hmm.
Yes, so from 2021 onwards, we are having online interviews. In 2020, when COVID started in India, in that year we conducted offline interviews. This year also we are planning to conduct offline interviews. For last 3 years we are conducting online, for a reason that we want to meet candidates. Alright? In online interactions, there is no personal connect with the candidate. This year we are thinking that we will have a personal connect. Like there is a candidate, see, interviewers can only control a bit. It's difficult to say whether a candidate is selected or not on the basis of the interview score itself, right? I have asked a few questions. Now a person is sitting in front of me is actually getting anxiety, because they actually keep evaluating themselves simultaneously, the candidates. If I am physically present with a candidate, I can help that candidate understand that this is not the end of the world, right? Still there is chance, right? You have a XAT score in your kitty, you have your academic performance, you have lots of other things. They all will play a role. It's not just this. I can read that person's body language, I can understand what's going on in his or her mind. I can change or modify my questions according to the expressions or the language, body language that person is showing, which is kind of impossible online. At the same time, I am seeing this person going out or coming in. That also is helping me gather more data, right? And when they are looking at us personally, right, that also creates a connect, and students become comfortable when it is offline. And what I like about physical interviews is, when I'm meeting them personally, is that I remember my students. And when they come to campus, I feel proud of my selection, because they do wonders. And when I see them doing wonders, I feel great about my choice, right? Because they come through my panel. So I have seen lots of students, and you don't forget them when you meet them physically.
Right.
So just a day before yesterday, there was a student who was from 17-19 batch. He came to meet me. He was in Jamshedpur. He came to meet me only because of this reason, because that I selected him for XLRI. So I guess this personal connect becomes amazing. And if there is a confusion, doubt, there is more clarity when it is one-on-one or a panel with candidate or meeting them online.
Sir, one thing I've observed as a student when I was coming to XLRI is that XAT is a very and in turn XLRI is a very inclusive institution in terms of the marks we score. So for other exams like CAT, other institutes, you have to score somewhere around 99 percentile to even get a chance for interview. But XAT is very inclusive in that you can get an interview even for low scores as 93 percentiles, and then you can convert and get into the top B schools like XLRI. Sir, what are your views about that?
So I told you initially also, right? Percentile has a role to play in the final selection process, but there are two more sections, right? GK and SA.
Right.
So they also actually come in. So that is also one of the reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason is that we also want students from different backgrounds on our campus. When I'm talking about XLRI, we focus on a lot on diversity. We focus on gender. We focus on people with backgrounds of, for instance, commerce, humanities, or something unique about them. So that uniqueness is taken into account, gender is taken into account, lots of other things are taken into account, right? So obviously, or there are sometimes people who are from, not so privileged backgrounds. That also is taken into account.
Right.
Right. So all those play a role, and we want a group of students who are intelligent, bring a fresh perspective, and add value to our classes. So keeping all those dimensions on the back of our mind, we holistically evaluate our students, and that may be the reason that people with lower percentile, as per your definition, also get into XLRI.
Sir, at this point, I'd like to take some questions from our audience who is watching.
Sure. Yeah, please.
So, one question which I think relates to what you've said right now is people asking to give a easier version of XAT, unlike the CAT which has happened, and give a chance to non-engineers. Sir, what would you like to say?
So I guess if you compare XAT with other exams, XAT gives equal opportunities to both engineers and non-engineers, right? If you take our one entire section called decision making,
Right.
it is a section which can be attempted equally by both engineers and non-engineers, right? This is the first very important piece of information. Number two, if you look at our GK and SA, which actually can be attempted equally by engineers and non-engineers.
Right.
So if you look at XAT holistically, it gives equal opportunities to both engineers and non-engineers. At the same time, when we design even our Quant section, we try to strike a balance. We don't believe in making our exam difficult. We are very clear on this. Like, though there is a perception that XAT is a difficult exam, it's not a difficult exam. Right? You look at our papers, we want you to think. When we make our, like the team which works on mostly question papers, they are very clearly told, we set this agenda in the very beginning itself, that don't make the exam difficult. It can be application oriented, right? It can have other dimensions, but we want you to think when you're attempting our questions. So if you're thinking that XAT would be a difficult exam, it won't be a difficult exam. We try to strike a balance, right? In our question paper, we try to bring the perspective of both the people who are having engineering background and people who are from non-engineering background. So our team also is constituted like that. So don't worry about that part.
Sir, I'd like to add on a personal experience. I had a very low percentile in CAT, and the reason was because I had despite being from a physics background, I've done a physics honors from Delhi University. I am not very good at solving quant, especially in a hurried manner, right? I like to take my time
Correct.
and then solve. So for that turned out to be my strength, because I could take the quant section first, take as much time as possible,
Very good.
and then go on to my strengths, which were VRC and the DM section, which I aced. And so I think in terms of that is actually a easier exam, which gives you much more opportunities.
And I guess because of your strategy, you are at XLRI.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir, next question is, uh, can you discuss how to handle quant question? What topics we should focus on? The question is by Shivangi Gupta.
Okay, so Shivangi, I would only suggest you that whatever you are preparing for other exams, our questions will also be almost on the same lines. But we avoid questions which are highly formula based, because we are not testing your speed. We want you to think, so look for what has been asked in questions. And as far as the variety of questions is concerned, for the first time we have come out with XAT 2024 overview. Just check that the topics which you would like to cover have been given in that particular overview. And if you are preparing the way you are preparing for other exams, and you are also trying to focus on the application part, you are actually good. So don't worry much.
Sir, Megha has this question that what about those who have low academic marks?
That question is always asked. You are here, you would have come across people who have
Right.
very good academic background, and you would have also come across people who are having decent background, right?
Right.
There is only one thing you all have to understand, that if you are exceptionally good, right? Exception in the sense you are struggling when it comes to taking exams because you're not good at expressing yourself, but you can talk about what you know. That can help you in interviews, and you can make it to a place like XLRI. But you also have to understand, if somebody is scoring well, because scoring well in your 10th standard, 12th standard, graduation is an indicator of good student, right?
Mhm.
If there is somebody who is actually a 9-pointer throughout, and at the same time this 9-pointer is also good at communicating what he or she thinks, at the same time this person also engages in discussions well, at the same time this person has strong value system, we'll prefer 9-pointer over anybody else, right? But if a 9-pointer is not so great at critical thinking skills,
Right.
he or she has been struggling in expressing what he or she thinks, at the same time a 6-pointer, 7-pointer or 8-pointer can think critically, can challenge, can actually come up with two different types of views and accommodate them together, and can actually express what he or she thinks, he or she has a better chance,
Right.
right? So it depends upon how well you present yourself.
So this is a common question by engineers. So Kaushik asks that there's some kind of discrimination against GEM candidates, general engineering males, in other exams. What about the XAT exam? Are they given preference or are they biased against?
See, I told that when you asked
Right.
that question, right? We try to strike a balance. We want engineers and we also want non-engineers,
Right.
right? We want male students, we also want female students.
Right.
So at XLRI, we never discriminate, right? We only want people with right skills which we are looking forward to. So I guess here we don't discriminate at all. And I'm sure you are here, you would
Yes,
have seen
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That is quite apt.
Hmm.
We have people who have done UPSC prep for 3 years. We have people who have 10 years work of experience. We have people who are just graduated and
Correct.
come.
And the law background people also.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir, next question is basically questions regarding, so Diya and Kaushik have questions regarding the experience. So one says that they have 3 years work of experience. One says they have 4 years So what is better? What is worse for BM HR? Is there a particular formula?
Okay, so number is not important. The quality of your work experience makes a difference.
Right.
Right. Sometimes even if you don't have a work experience, you can make it to XLRI.
Right.
Lots of freshers are also getting selected because there is a set of competencies which we measure, And if you fare well on those competencies, we will take you. I would say that don't get worried about your work experience. If you have work experience, be thorough with it. When you come to personal interviews, you have to express or tell everything what you have done. You cannot skip by saying, I was only doing this bit, I don't know what was happening before I was doing and what was happening after what I was doing. If you are that kind of person, you lived in silos in your office, you are not the right person, right? In that case, obviously this experience will play against you. But if you know what you were doing and how it was connected with what your company was doing, and you can make sense of how you are contributing to your organization,
Right.
then it makes a huge difference. We would love that candidate because this person can connect the dots, even if that person doesn't have all the information.
Right.
So I guess years don't matter, quality of your work experience matters.
Right. It's a great answer. So at this point, people are asking about the website. So I'd like to inform that the website for registering for XAT is xatonline.in. And there are 2 more days left technically. We don't know if there's gonna be an extension. So you should go and register now. And sir, this year I personally saw the advent of a new thing called mock test for XAT.
Right.
Sir, we have had 2 mock tests so far.
And third is already on.
So third is
Yes.
on.
So we have kept the window open now.
Right.
So if you register, you
Right.
will get an opportunity to take that mock test. It is available. So idea is that mock test has been curated out of the questions of previous XAT exam.
Right.
So in those tests, whatever was asked, we have tried to pick the best of questions on the lines which we are using to create new exams, right?
Mhm.
For instance, this year's exam. And we want students to become familiar with the pattern
Right.
and then how they can manage time. So we want to give them an experience before the exam, right? As you asked, no, sometimes your day is not good. Sometimes there is a problem at, you are in a different state of mind. There is some problem at home. When you have practiced even the same test again and again, now you know that these are the things which are going to come. So your brain is mentally prepared.
Right.
Right, so it makes you comfortable when you enter. You know that this section, that second section, third section, you know everything in your question paper. It makes your works easy and also makes you familiar and comfortable. That's the idea.
Right. So I'd like to reiterate to for the students out there that register fast so that you can actually have a chance at giving the mock exams and get a better edge
Correct.
when you actually give the exam in real life. Sir, some questions and then we'll wrap up. Final questions. Sir, basically, yeah. So people are talking about the RCs and the poems in XAT. They say it's very philosophical. It's not something you can, write objectively about. Your views, sir.
If you look at our exam, right? When I say exam, I mean Xavier Aptitude for last few years.
Right.
You will see that there's a change in our approach now. When we were into PBT, paper-based test,
Right.
at that time RCs used to be very long.
Right.
Because you could touch, feel, read, you could do back and forth easily. Now we have moved online. So when we have moved online, we know that you cannot read the entire passage in one go. You have to scroll, and then there are distractions, and then sometimes your eyes are not supporting,
Right.
and there's a fatigue. All those things. So if there's a fatigue, obviously you will not feel great. Keeping all those problems in mind, we have reduced the size of our passages. So passages have been shortened, but questions are mostly inferential. If you understand your passage well, you can answer your question. Always, whenever there is a passage, there is a message in that passage in our XAT exams. That's what we are very clear about. We don't give random passages
Mm-hmm.
and we don't pick anything and everything and push them in our paper. You
Right.
pick a passage, there is always a hidden message. So that even if you don't make it to any of the P schools, our associate schools or XLRI, at least there is some learning hidden.
Right.
And as far as poems are concerned, earlier definitely poems were philosophical, you are correct. But now we are very clear that we will not give philosophical poems. We'll keep our poems simple.
Right.
But at the same time, we want our students to appreciate poems, right? Because why poems? What is the significance of poems? But when it comes to, for instance, having friendships, right, or having long-term relationships, right? You want to marry somebody. Obviously, you will have to show your softer side as well, right? You cannot just rely on your analytical side. Or handling people in offices. You are always a person with analytical thinking. You will always question people. If there is a person in my team who is having family issues, and I'm not taking care of that person at that point of time, that person may leave my organization in future, right? So we want you to appreciate both your analytical side and creative side.
Right.
That is the objective. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We require emotions. We definitely require analytical thinking. We also require emotions because they are also guiding us, right? You cannot just do away with emotions. And that is the idea of using poems in our verbal section.
Okay. Sir, a question I'd like to clarify. So, we have got the question on where can we find the XAT overview doc. It is on the xatonline.in website only, guys.
So the website is xatonline.ac.in.
.ac.in.
Yes.
Right.
So you just go there. There is XAT 2024 overview available.
Right. Sir, can you talk about how to prepare for GK?
So this year, again, if you go through the overview, it is very clearly stated that there will be 25 questions, and out of those 25 questions, 15 questions will be from current affairs and 25 questions will be from static general knowledge.
Right.
So if you have kept your ears and eyes open for the entire year and you are aware of what is going on around you, you will be able to handle. Focus on newspapers, focus on current affairs. They will help you with 15 questions. And then the static GK questions will be 10 questions. But those 10 questions will not be very complicated questions. So always in those questions there are some cues. If you use those cues, you can arrive at right answers.
Right. Sir, we'll be ending soon. So before ending, I'd like to reveal a secret from your office, sir, if you're agreeable.
Okay.
Sir, I've been to your office and I saw monitors and keyboards of different sizes and different, every kind, from a small monitor you'd find in some test center to a very big screen. So could you explain the objective of that?
So we already have papers available, right? From last years. So previous years. So we do a dry run before we actually give that paper, or we give our exam to the agency which conducts, right? So it's a very confidential process, and we all are very watchful of what is going on. Before that, we run our old papers through those computers to check how will our paper appear on different screens.
Right.
Because different centers have different types of screens, different size of screens, and we want to understand what kind of problems our candidates can face. So that is why we have lots of computers kept with us to understand how will our paper render, question paper render. That's the idea.
Right. Sir, so I think this is a good note to end on.
Thank you.
And before going, I'd like to say to our audience, all the students out there, that you have a lot of resources available on the XAT official site. But also, if you want to gain more confidence, you have resources available on InsideIIM, which you'll find in the comments, pinned comments. So we thank you for this being with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
All the best to the candidates. Do well. Don't worry much about things which you cannot control. I always believe that what you can control should be your focus. What you cannot control should not worry you. Right? You can prepare. You can do as many mocks as you can before the exam, and you can perform in the exam. Once you have performed, forget everything. Right? You have already performed if you have taken CAT. Don't get worried about what will be the percentile, what will happen if this happens, if that happens. What if questions will keep coming? They will create anxiety. Just don't get worried. You are done with your bit. Now you focus on the next goal. You are done with the next goal. Focus on next goal. Plan your life and just keep trying, right? And never give up. That's it.
Thank you guys for being with us.